right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. As always, I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you have never checked out the program before, we are primarily an interview and a commentary podcast. Today, we have an interview, and on the phone with me, I have Ed Friedman. Ed, welcome to the program. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks, Bill. I like being here. This is great.
Awesome. I'm here today for the fine folks over at humoroutcast.com. And if you hadn't had a chance yet, do go over and check out that website. Lots of funny posts on there, new content pretty much every day. And this is all part of a publishing umbrella from our good friend Donna Kavanaugh, HOPress, Shorehouse Books. Great publisher. And the site's great, humoroutcast.com. Like I said, there's a lot of political stuff there, but there's social commentary, and it's different authors, different writers making posts on their new content all the time. So do check them out. That is a great place to take a humor break. Let me tell you a little bit about Ed. Ed is the author of the book I Will Not Be Ignored, which combines fiction, nonfiction, and opinion to create a humorous take on three aspects of the author's thinking. One is his outlook on the proliferation of current wisdom, which is so plentiful on the internet in this day and age. And that is so true. So much wisdom out there. It's amazing. His imaginings provide multiple answers to different versions of what if. And that's something that I live under as well, a big cloud of what if. And his personal experience in navigating his own shortcomings, failures, and fears. Again, the author, Ed Friedman, the book, I Will Not Be Ignored. So I understand you're from the Bronx.
I am. I'm a born and bred in the Bronx. I spent the first almost 50 years of my life there. And I think to a great extent, it basically shaped my thinking.
Okay. Is it as tough as everybody says it is there?
Well, the thing about the Bronx, it's probably like any place else in that there are places that were, when I was growing up, you were afraid to go into, and there are other places where there were, $1 million homes.
Yeah.
So it's a very diverse county, and it really depends on where you were. Um, where I lived, it was kind of in the middle. It wasn't. It was a lower middle class community. A lot of homes, cheek by jowl, connected attached homes or semi-attached homes. And when we were growing up, we lived our life on the block basically, and our
Yeah.
world consisted of the people on the block and all the city games that kids played and stuff. And so, and I think to some extent it remains that way today. Uh,
Hmm.
I think it's a much more diverse county. It's not as segmented as it was back then.
Hmm. I have never been there. I've been to different parts of New York, but I've never been to the Bronx. So that's something I'll have to try one of these days. What were your early days like? Were you academic, or were you like a student athlete, or what were you
No,
like?
I was one of those kids that never lived up to his potential. When my parents would go to school, they'd say, he's just not living up to his potential. So I was a really mediocre student. I was a mediocre high school student. I had a half-hearted attempt initially to go to college, where I was asked to leave because I wasn't doing very well, and it took me a while before I kind of found my footing. Went back to college and finished, and then 25 years after I finished, I actually went back to graduate school in my 50s.
Well,
And yeah, I was always plagued by the fact that I started my master's and I never finished it, and I was always plagued by it. So I
interesting.
finally went back to school, and when I was 56, I got a master's.
No, that's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Should be very inspiring to anybody out there. You can always learn more. You can always learn more. Were you always drawn to the arts? And I'm going to talk a little bit. You've done many stage productions. Obviously, you're a writer. You're doing a lot of stuff. So was the arts, writing, acting? Is that something that you were always drawn to when you were young?
No, no, I had no background in the arts. We were not an artistic family. We weren't encouraged. I didn't see a stage play till I was 21,
Mm-hmm.
and I and my impetus was that I was taking a girlfriend out, and I thought it would impress her if I took her to a Broadway show. Uh,
Really?
so
Okay.
that was my introduction to theater, and then. Even then, I wasn't pursuing it or anything. And then when I was finishing my undergraduate work, I had some credits I had to make up, and I took a theater course and a very basic theater course, and we got to see a bunch of plays in the city, off Broadway plays, and it started to pique my interest. And then I found that there was a community theater in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I started going to their productions, and then I finally got the courage to audition for a very small role in one of the plays, and
Mm-hmm.
that was it.
You're hooked.
Yep,
That's awesome.
exactly.
Yeah, you're hooked. What kind of material as an audience member? Like, let's say you're going to go see a play, you're going to
Yeah,
go see a movie. Well, what kind of material intrigues you?
I like plays where there are kind of moral dilemmas.
Okay,
Plays uh, like Whose Life Is It Anyway, or Doubt, uh, or plays where characters are navigating relationship issues. Um,
interesting.
those are the plays I seem to be drawn to.
Why do you like humor writing? And you have this. I'll say I can understand the Bronx background because you have this real dry, matter of fact delivery. Going through your book. It's very self deprecating. I went into my friend's bathroom who has more mirrors than what he needs, and I found this gigantic hole in the back of my head. That's the kind of passage that I remember. What do you like about humor writing?
Um, I think what occurs to me about that is one of the things that happens when you're doing a stage play is that if it's a comedy, you get an immediate audience reaction.
Hmm.
If you're doing a straight play, you don't really necessarily get a sense of the audience until the end. And one of the reasons that I picked humor to write about, or to include in this collection, is that I really was hoping, and I am uh, still hoping because the book just came out, to do some readings. And one of the things about doing readings is that if it's humor, you get an immediate reaction.
Yeah,
Right away if the material is landing.
interesting. The book covers a lot of the aspects of aging, and that's something that is around. It's in your aura to begin with. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But with aging comes any number of things, like the hair being gone. When you and,
Yeah,
things like that. Some of them are humorous and harmless. Sometimes you get to a certain age, as they say.
yeah,
I'm there. Now I'm of a certain age,
yes,
as they often say, which brings in medical conditions and other things that younger folks don't typically have. Although I got to tell you, I don't know if, and I hear a lot about the diets and everything, the stuff that's in our food. It seems like younger people, more and more people are getting hit with stuff that you typically don't get until you get older,
yeah,
which is a sad commentary about our food and stuff. But with medical issues and everything, those can be more serious. And I often ask this about humor writing because I am very intrigued by the fact that I believe it can be a coping mechanism. It's one of those things where you have to laugh at it, or you're going to get depressed. You're going to cry. What's your take on that?
yeah. I agree. I think that humor certainly can be used as a coping mechanism, and there are studies that will say to you, tell you that being able to laugh and relax and enjoy something funny is going to increase the endorphins, and it affects your mood. Studies have borne this out.
Yes.
I think the cautionary tale about this is you don't want humor um, to act as a defense mechanism to not deal with stuff. And
Sure.
there's always that danger. But I think that I think in general, I think it does it can make people feel better, and I think there's actually physiological positive changes that can occur from
Yes.
being able to laugh at something.
I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you about that. Taking things in stride. I think my father died relatively young. I think a lot of of that was associated with stress. He was
Wow.
constantly, in a ball of nerves, and
Yeah.
I can't believe that that doesn't take a toll on you in some degree.
Oh, completely.
Um, when you write about yourself and poke fun at aging and the other things associated with it, is there anything that's off limits? Is there anything that I'm not going to joke about this because this might hurt somebody, or this isn't a laughing matter? Is there any part of your writing that you have that little alarm go off and say, no, I don't think I want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. There's the line, and I can't tell you exactly where it is. But the hard thing about that question is my life butts up against other people's lives. So
Yeah,
there is stuff about me that I might be comfortable doing, but when it affects somebody else, I might have to think
sure.
twice about this. How are they going to take it? Um, and as you've read, I do plumb my own insecurities and shortcomings and things like that. Um, but I've read a number of memoirs, and uh, I read these things, and I'm saying, this seems a lot to me. I don't know that
Hmm.
I needed to know that.
Yeah.
It just feels like too much information, and I kind of use that barometer for myself. There are things that um, I think, you know what, that's a little too much information,
Yeah.
I don't know where exactly that line is, but I know if I've come close to it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's you'll know it when you hear it, or
Yeah.
or when you come across about it. This book, I kind of described it. Why don't you kind of describe it in your own words, and then kind of tell us what inspired you to write it?
Yeah, this is hard to describe in the sense that uh, if you were looking for this book, um, and you were looking under, should you look under fiction, nonfiction, essays, because it has all of this, so it becomes a difficult um, book to categorize. And one of the reasons this is true is because when I decided to do this, um, I didn't think I'd have enough material to just write essays or just write a bunch of short, fiction pieces. So
Right.
I thought, I'm going to throw it all. I'm going to throw it all in this book. And in the introduction, I basically explain this, that some of this uh, it covers these different aspects of writing, and the way it's divided, the book is divided. It's things that happened, which is true stuff,
Mm-hmm.
things that could have happened, which is the fiction part of it, and things I think, which is just
Mm-hmm.
my take on things, um, the essay part of it.
Yeah. Um, what impact do you hope that it has on the reader? And I don't know that a book that is compiled in this way really has maybe a single impact on, let's say, a drama.
Yeah,
But one of the things that's nice about it is that you don't have a linear story where you have to read it and keep track of what's happening, and it takes you a week to get through it.
right.
It's one of those things where you can pick up and you can find something and read a couple passages and get enjoyment from it. So that's kind of what that's how I'm composing the question. What impact do you hope it has on the reader?
I would say in general, I'd like someone to finish the book and say that was fun. But I also think that there are there are people who enjoy things they can identify with, and I'm hoping there are a few moments in there for people that they'll identify with, and I think that'll increase their enjoyment. Um, Mainly, my hope is, I one of my writing heroes is Aaron Sorkin, and
Okay.
and he wrote, in one of his characters in The West Wing was a poet, and I don't remember the entire quote, but it was something like, "An artist's job is to captivate you for however long they've asked for your attention." So, um,
Hmm.
I sort of, if you're motivated to stay with it the whole time, then that's a good thing.
Yeah. That's it. That's an interesting quote. I kind of like that. Just to remind people, we're talking to Ed Freeman, and the book is titled "I Will Not Be Ignored." This is interesting. I found this out about you in going through the information, in pre-production, going through my prep for you. And this is an interesting cause. We often have people in the program who are advocates and things, and this is interesting. I want you to talk a little bit about being the co-founder and first executive director of Lifetime Arts, and this is a nonprofit organization that encourages creative aging by promoting the inclusion of arts education programs in organizations that serve older adults. And I got to say, that's interesting. I've never really heard about that, or quite frankly considered it. Can you tell us a little bit
Sure.
how were you drawn to that cause?
Um, I think, well, to go back, when I was first in graduate school, before I kind of flamed out the first time, um, the funny thing was, I started out wanting to be a guidance counselor,
Okay.
and when I went to graduate school and I was looking for a field placement, the only one I could find was a senior citizen center. And so I was working at the senior citizen center in graduate school, and it was my first exposure to the fact that people can age very differently, and so much of it is dependent on your thinking, how you feel
Yeah.
about your aging, how I feel about your life. Um, and I got sort of more invested and interested in that, and I wound up working first at a senior center, and then for a home care agency, and then I started a caregiver support group for people who were caring for their elderly parents. And I co-facilitated this group for like 12 years. So I
Wow.
started to get more kind of invested in this. Uh, but I had this parallel career. I worked for the Bronx Council on the Arts for over 20 years. Um, and So where these things came together was the beginning of Lifetime Arts. I was sitting on a committee in Westchester County here, and which is the county just north of New York City, um, with a colleague, someone I sort of knew a little bit, and we got together and had this idea to um, to start this nonprofit. And we started it in an extra room in her home. Maura O'Malley is the co-founder with me. Um, One of Maura's oldest son had gone off to college, and there was a
Hmm.
room there. And um, we started this thing out of whole cloth, literally. And it was based on the fact that most of the arts programs for older adults were either passive entertainment or one-off type programs. And one of the things that we found was that it was much more robust and much more productive for people to actually learn an art form. In which case, they would have to, go to multiple classes to do this. Um, because not only are they going to learn an art form, but they're going to have a meaningful social interaction with people. And at an older age, people have a lot of losses. So
Mm.
it's a way for them to sort of make new friends, start new relationships, this kind of thing. And we started this program in public libraries. Because people know where they are, they feel safe in them. Older adults are welcomed in libraries. So the program started with 8 libraries in Westchester County, uh, with just me and Maura doing doing everything, and, uh, now the organization, we started in 2008. The organization is national at this point. I think we're in 21 states. I keep saying we. I retired 3 years ago. Uh, and there's a staff of, I think, 8 or 10.
That's I got to tell you, that's really cool. And what you said about caregivers support, I don't want to let that go by. I think caregivers are very much passed over in terms of how we consider what's happening with healthcare.
Oh, you're
Uh,
absolutely right, and
yeah,
they do need more support because they're providing the huge lion's share of caring for older people. There's a lot of discussion about people in nursing homes and assisted living facilities, but that accounts for a very small amount of people. Most of the care of older people are done by family members.
yeah. And we should point out that when somebody does, and not everybody can. There's times I'm sure there's people in a situation where they simply can't take care of their parents. Maybe their
Oh
health is
yeah,
too
oh
bad or whatever.
absolutely.
But when they can do that, they're taking the expense away from the state of having them inside of a facility, and that saves the healthcare system. And that's something that I found out about when my mom fell ill. There are programs to help caregivers and respite and things like that.
Yep.
And for anybody going through something like that, you're doing hard work. It's 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
and you don't get a break. And it's yeah, but take advantage. Talk to somebody in your local community and find out where you can get help, because there is help available. Once again, the book "I Will Not Be Ignored." Is there a significance to that title? "I Will Not Be Ignored."
Um, well, there are two reasons for the title. One is that it's the title of my favorite piece in the book, um, which is I don't want to give the whole thing away, but it's a series of letters, um, uh, written by someone who has taken a writing course to the instructor who offered to look over the person's material.
Hmm.
Um, so it's a series of letters, and that's kind of the main reason that I use that title. I thought it would be whimsical, and also it to some extent it reflects my ambivalence um, about self promotion.
Okay.
Uh, I really have a difficulty with that, and so there's obviously I would like people to read the book, and I want them
Yeah,
to enjoy it. Um,
I'm chuckling because you're talking about how you have a hard time with self promotion, and when you start doing it, you're hesitating. You're getting caught up in words, and you know what? That's something that I struggle with too. And I have a lot of people telling me, you got to get the show out there. You got to talk about how good it is. You got to do this, that, and the other thing, and it's very hard to do that because you're oftentimes you're your own worst critic. Do you have a hard time analyzing your own work? I tell you what, when I listen to something I recorded, I go back over it and say, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have done, you know.
yeah, there's a point at which, and I'm in a lot of writing groups and things like that, and I've worked with editors and dramaturgs, and uh, you need that because you can't be your own editor.
Yeah,
There's a point at which, I mean, you can get a sense of when something works, but you really need other people to kind
absolutely.
of look
Yeah.
at this. You need another set of eyes on something. Where I think the problem that I have is parsing that feedback, and
Hmm.
this is sort of an ongoing issue that I have. Uh, because I've been in some of these feedback groups where uh, they'll read a piece and somebody will say, "Oh, this isn't working," and then somebody else will say, oh no, I really like that that part of this.
Yeah.
And so you're basically left to your own devices in deciding what you want to keep in.
Interesting. Yeah, it's very hard to proofread yourself or edit yourself because you read what you think is there, and sometimes that isn't what's there. So, absolutely. Where can people find the book? And once again, let me say the title one more time. I Will Not Be Ignored. Author Ed Friedman. We're speaking to him right now. Where can people find the book?
Well, as you said, HOPress is the publisher, and the book is available on Amazon. I also have a website where there are some samples of some other work that I have in some journals that I appear in, and my little I have a little anthology of short plays called "Short Plays for Long Lives," which focuses on older people. Um, and all that information is on my website, which is edwright1.com.
Is there any other social media places or anything like that you want to mention real quick?
I am on Facebook. Not a big poster, but I'm there.
Awesome. Well, that is fantastic. Once again, the author's name, Ed Freeman. Friedman, I should say. Am I hitting all the marks on your name correctly?
You just did, yeah. That
Yeah.
you just redeemed yourself for
Okay.
the other one. Thank you for that. That's fine.
Ed Friedman, and I'm going to spell that Friedman.
There you go.
And I will not be ignored. So awesome, awesome book, fun read. You're an interesting guy, and I absolutely love the cause that you helped launch with the nonprofit,
Thank you.
which serves older adults and gets their minds activated.
There you
As
go.
opposed to just sitting there and watching old reruns or whatever it is that they're doing, to actually participate
Yeah,
and think about things and get their minds activated. The energy level and everything else goes up when you do that. So that's fantastic, Ed. I got to tell you, I really like that. Thank you so much for coming on the program and talking to us today.
you're very welcome. I enjoyed it.
Loved having you. Just a reminder, we're here today on behalf of humoroutcast.com, and HOPress Shorehouse Books is the publisher, and let me try that again, humoroutcast.com. The place to take a humor break. Do check them out. Want to say hello to Donna Kavanaugh, all the people over there. Real fine group of writers who post pretty much every day. Very topical stuff. Sometimes it gets political, but it's a good time. It's humor and it's all good stuff. I'm Billy Dees. You can find me on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Now it's X at Billy Dees. That's kind of like my social media home, and you can find the Billy Dees podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. We are on all the major platforms. So find us and pick out a few episodes and listen to a couple. I always say listen to more than one because we go a lot of different directions, and I don't have like an ideological stance on everything. We try to be objective and funny and all the other things. So give us a couple of episodes before you make a decision. Ed, thanks again for being on the program.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. And we will talk to you again next week.